From Adam to Noah, as I said earlier, there was no written record. So how did God teach men? He appeared in visions, he appeared in dreams, and if you'll read your Bible, angels are constantly showing up. Angels showed up at Sodom. Angels showed up with Abraham. Angels showed up with Jacob. Every time you look around, there's a man, even in the book of Judges, they were coming as angels. Now, according again to history, I'm taking this from the Old Testament first, then I'm taking this from Jewish history, early church fathers, we combine it together. Something really bizarre happened that can be proven by history. Now listen carefully. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm taking you somewhere. That's why we got to go here. There was a group of angels, according to history, that before God ever sent the Torah to Moses, the revelation of his word, he sent angels down in the form of men to teach men righteousness. Now, according to everything you can find on this subject, these angels, once they took upon themselves flesh, could sin. You said, that's impossible. Wait a minute. Jesus, the Word, became flesh and was tempted in all points as you and I, yet without sin. We're not talking about an angel in a spirit body. We're talking about an angel that could take upon itself the form of flesh. How this happened, we don't know. But this is the reason why in Jude 6, 1 through 4, the sons of God came to the daughters of men and produced a race of giants. This is why in Jude 1, 6 through 7, 2 Peter chapter 2, 4, it says the angels that didn't keep their first position, God is now bound in chains of darkness in hell. And these are angels that came into the daughters of men and produced giants. Now, I'm going to give you 3 quotes real quick. The earliest report of fallen angels is found again in the book of Enoch, which was known in the first century church. Here's the quote. The sons of heaven who belonged to the guardian angels lusted for the beauty of the daughters of men. And in the time of Jared, you can read about him in the book of Genesis, they decided to descend upon Mount Hermon to carry out their plans from there. For there were 200 of them, and their leader made them swear an oath to adhere to their purpose. And it was this oath that gave the name to Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is a snow-capped mountain between the border of Israel and Syria. They consorted with the daughters of men who birthed a generation of giants who set about mercilessly destroying human beings. The fallen angels also taught men the use of weapons, other tools promoting immorality and crime. In this matter, demonic wisdom came into being in addition to divine wisdom, but it led to the corruption of mankind. Moved by man's outcry, the 4 archangels appeared to God and were given orders to punish the fallen angels. Now, your Bible talks about in the New Testament fallen angels that did not keep their first estate. Josephus, the Jewish historian, wrote about this. Same thing. For which reason they removed their camp to Hebron. When they had taken it, the Hebrews had taken Hebron, they slew the inhabitants. There were, till then, left a race of giants whose bodies were so large and whose countenance were so entirely different from men that they were terrible to the hearing. The bones of these men are still shown to this day, unlike any credible relations with any other men. He's saying, I have seen the bones of the giants in Hebron. That was 1,900 years ago. Final quote. And I've got many more quotes. I'm only giving you 3. Justin Martyr, early church father, book 1, page 190, How the Angels Transgress, wrote this. God committed to the care of men and all things under heaven to angels, to whom he appointed over them. But the angels transgressed this appointment and were captivated by the love of women and begot children who were those that were called demons. And beside, they afterwards subdued the human race by themselves, partially by teaching them to offer sacrifices and incense, of which they stood in need of after they were enslaved by lustful passions, and among them that sowed murders, wars, adulteries, terrible deeds, and wickedness. This is important you understand this. Whence also the poets and mythologists, not knowing that it was the angels and those demons whom had been begotten by them that did these things to men and women in cities and nations, which they related, ascribed them to God himself and to the offspring of those who were called brothers, Neptune and Pluto, and to the children again of their offspring. Now here's what he's saying. Greek mythology perverted the true story. They didn't understand fallen angels. They didn't understand these giants. So the Greeks came along after the giants had all died and the fallen angels were all bound. 1,000 years later, 1,500 years later, and they make mythology up. He said, but they don't know what they're doing because they don't understand the real history. Is everybody still here? Is there proof of them? Yes. Dolmens. Dolmens. What is a dolmen? A dolmen means a stone table. They are located throughout the world. This is a picture of one which is located in Israel. There are 3,000 of these located in what is called the Bashan or the Golan Heights of Israel. Why is that important for you to understand? Number one, these are so large that engineers from America have said you would have to have a crane to pick up these stones. They cannot figure how human men have put these up. They are in Stonehenge, England. They are in Ireland. They are in South Africa. They are all over the world. Do you know why? Because the world used to be all one continent. And before the flood, these giants could go anywhere without having to take a ship. And then at the time of the flood, the continents were divided up. And that's the reason why that you have these located everywhere, because you say, how did these giants get all over the earth? Take a map. Have your kids do it. Take a map of the world, cut it out, and you can put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. Something happened. The Bible even said Peleg in his day was the earth divided. So these stone tables, as they're called, 3,000 of them are in the Golan Heights. Why is that important? Because if you'll read your Bible, there was a man named Og, king of Bashan, whose bed, if we take it to English, to our standard of measurement, ready? 4 foot wide, 18 feet tall. And he was a giant in the land of the Bible. Well, Brother Perry, I just don't believe there's any evidence of giants. Well, let me read this. There's a temple in Ain Dara in northern Syria. It was built similar to the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, discovered in 1936. It contains stones carved with lions, cherubim, palmettes, and other geometric designs. It has 3 chambers like a temple. It has a chamber for a shrine like a Holy of Holies. When the archaeologists dug it out, they were shocked to discover this, that there are 3 of these in the entrance of. Those are footprints 3 feet long. Now, they're saying perhaps it was dedicated to the god of that area. But don't miss this. This temple that they excavated, where these 3 footprints are located right in the heart of where the Bible's giants used to be. So when people look at me and they say, well, I just don't believe all of that you read in the Bible, you better start believing it, my brother. Are you still here? Now, here's the reason I'm talking about giants. Here's the reason I'm talking about fallen angels. Because there has been a huge interest in what is called unidentified flying objects, better known as UFOs. And by the way, that on the right is a mock-up. That is not the real thing from Area 51. Anyway, you all don't even know what that is. That's fine. But the point is, what are these flying saucers? Interestingly enough, they didn't really start appearing till about 1948 when Israel became a nation again. Hitler, I have the actual book from Germany. Hitler was working on a flying disc. He sat in the Olympics and watched a guy sling a disc, and the German government was trying to develop what was called a flying disc. In fact, some scientists from Germany believe it was already made. And so I believe that a lot of what you and I see in the atmosphere is military and secret military intelligence of things they're working on that you and I have no clue about. Now, we'll say this. There is so much going on and so much weirdness taking place that it cannot be all military. I've got something, oh Lord, I shouldn't even get into this, but I'm taping in Israel. And my TV producer calls me in when we get back. He said, I'm going to blow your mind. I want you to look at this. And something shot across the screen. And he slowed that thing down, and it was what we had heard about for years, a flying rod. It was 3.5, 4 feet long. It was crystal. It has a clear. It's got a membrane running through it. And people have tried to determine what they are. I did get a letter from a guy that when he was a little boy throwing wood chips up, him and his sister, they hit one. You can't see him in the natural eye. It fell to the ground. He said it was about 3.5 foot tall, had little teeth and fins. These have 4 fins on them. There's whole internet sites dedicated to it. Some say they're flies that just show up on it. I've been taping in Israel for 30 years and have seen flies on cameras and never seen this. It's right over the Sea of Galilee. Brother, one of them is shooting up in the air and one of them is shooting and going down into the ground. I said, wouldn't that be weird if that's the spirit of somebody dying? I got my staff all shook up when I told them that. I'm not telling you I believe that. I just thought I was having fun with it. Now, there's something going on out there. Here's my point. Listen carefully. If in the days of Noah we're going to repeat ourselves, there were giants in the earth that was the offspring of something supernatural and something natural that produced a demonic seed. Is it possible that we're going to see visible demonic power powers, principalities and powers of the atmosphere begin to manifest and actually see them and be able to photograph them in these last days. And the world will be deceived and be enamored by it, thinking it's life on other planets. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying? But you know, there's also in the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, a cherub. And it's described as a wheel within the middle of a wheel. And that wheel begins to spin, and it's got what looks like eyes on it. What if it's lights? What if it's not eyes? My point is this. You're going to hear more about this. You're going to see more about this. You're going to see things showing up all over the place. And don't be deceived into thinking that there's, evolution must be real because there are many, many planets with weird creatures that have evolved. Let me tell you, brother, there's only one planet that God sent his son to, and that was planet Earth, and you better know that before you get started. One planet. He died here. Hey, preach on. He didn't have to die over and over again.